Hi class, Dr. Colson. We're going to talk about state law and what your requirements are going to be for your state law presentation. And also, if you're a graduate student, you have to do the presentation and submit a paper about state law. So in this module, I have a few things that talks about Indiana IEPs. These are quite long videos. You can watch them or save them. That way you have an idea of what Indiana requires for their electronic IEP version. I did include those here, but that won't necessarily be necessary to complete this assignment. But just make sure you have access to those videos that talks about what the electronic IEP is for here in Indiana. In this module, you're going to create a voice thread, just like the voice that you created in your introduction. We're going to create one that's going to talk about your state law. For this one, I would like for everybody to do Indiana. I know some people want to teach in Kentucky or other places like that. But in this one, I really would like for you to do Indiana, because on the special education licensure test you have to take for Indiana, it includes questions about Indiana Article 7, which Article 7 is Indiana state law for special education. So remember, you have federal law, and then within federal law you also have state law. So remember, as in the beginning when we talked about how law was done and things like that, I think it was chapter 2, chapter 1, that education is primarily left up to the state. So you have to do what federal law says, but not only you have to do what federal law, you have to do state law. So state law can differ. It can never be different as far as not require something that federal law requires, but it can require you to go above and beyond. So I have a PowerPoint here for you to refer to and look at over Article 7. Then here is the actual Article 7. The documentation, I think, is like 153 pages. So you're going to go through that and look at the differences between federal and state law. What does Indiana require? Here's also a nice little PDF that is practical, that it will help you understand Article 7 maybe a little bit better. So let's talk about what your presentation is going to require. So here is the document that we have on here. Okay, so this is the instructions. So these are just some things that I want you to talk about. So I want you to talk about the state special education law, which I just told you what that is. For Indiana, we call it Article 7. So then tell me how your state defines a free, appropriate public education. So what's the state's definition? So what are the state requirements regarding an IEP? What are the state's guidelines for disciplining students with disabilities? What are the state policies? What are the state requirements for all of these? So you would want to maybe include a slide for each one of these. And talk about each one of these for your presentation. And then I had included on here, let's see, here's some guiding questions. These are just questions that will help guide you. So like I said, these are just different questions that'll help you with those. So if you're thinking, what do I need to include in each of these, look through these kinds of things that may help guide you for the presentation. So then you'll want to make sure you've answered all these questions and included all of the requirements for what you have to include, that you're including discipline, transition, and things like that. Then you're going to use this link to create your voice thread. So you'll click on here, so make your PowerPoint and click that. In the first module was where the Grad students, you need to upload your paper. I'll maybe include one over here for you as well. We should get a email from Jean Moore from the education office about TK20. And as soon as you get that, make sure you send that PowerPoint and upload that. That will be a loss of 10 points on your state law report if you do not submit your TK20 assignment. So make sure you've got those done. And that will kind of conclude and wrap up. So the state law, the idea is that once you understand federal law, then you start looking more deeply at state law and what the state requires. And how those things can be different. So I'll give you an example. A lot of times you'll see difference in the age of transition. So federal law says that by the age of 16, students must be included in their educational planning and must have a transition service plan. State law says by age 14. So we're actually going earlier. So yeah, we're still meeting federal law because by the age 16, yes, they are included and they do have a transition plan. But state law says we got to start it at 14. They usually want to hit them while they're in middle school before they get to high school. So that way if students who, for example, want to be on the college track, a student may not be 16 until their junior year of high school. We don't want to just first find out that they want to go to college when they're a junior. It may be too late because the idea of that transition services, we're setting that student up for that post-secondary goals and outcomes and how are we going to help that student meet those. So the state law can be a little more specific and be more constrained. A lot of times the amount of days you have to, if you have a transfer student, and I think federal law requires 45 days. I think state law here is 10 or 15 days. So you have to look at those kinds of things and see. It's usually more constrained. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I can't wait to see your state law reports. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.